Hello. My project is titled Natural Disaster Risk to Foreign Residents of the Tokyo Metropolitan Area, TMA for short. So I'll use that. The next slides. Okay. Uh, okay, I have a message up top. I'll read it really quick. Konnichiwa, watashi wa Anthony desu. Watashi no daigaku no senko wa computer desu. So, computer science major at DePaul University. Just for fun, I'll study Japanese. I've thought about living there, and it kind of gave me the inspiration to do this project. And if I was to move there, I got to know where am I going to move, like what kind of quality uh, of living conditions are most foreign residents going to be encountering. And so, in my project here is to provide context for someone like me of the present situations that exist in the disaster-prone areas for non-native residents um, due to language barriers and lack of cultural assimilation. Um, in addition to the risks posed from natural disaster, it is a highly populated and densely populated region, which shows why the city is a great case study for such an analysis. There are something like 13.94 million residents in all of Tokyo as of 2021. If you didn't know this, the nation chose to analyze this infamously well-known city of Tokyo, Japan. I say that because it's due to its proximity to the mountain chain of Mount Fuji. There are actually three mountains. You really only see the big cone that everybody knows, the symmetrical one, but there are two ones that are underneath. It's consistently erupted every 625 years for the last 10,000 recorded years, and I believe it's something like 126 miles from Tokyo, or maybe that's in kilometers, so it's fairly close. I can move my head here. What I hope to do is provide an accurate depiction of the proportionally higher risk of threat associated to non-native residents for their tendency to live in the highly populated regions. You're going to see that they're primarily on the eastern side of the TMA. Actually, about 85% of every foreign resident that lives in Tokyo is in that side. Dense regions on the eastern side of TMA through a map with associated depictions that closely mirror the data which I studied. Okay, next slide. So methods for my data normalization. So the initial issue I had was translating the data. Okay, the Excel file that I downloaded from reference that I'll provide at the end was in Japanese, and there was something like 5,216 rows, one for every single block in the TMA. Okay, so that's a lot of data. Brings me to my second issue, which was reducing all those blocks to the 23 special wards in the TMA. And they all are in the eastern side. So I boiled it down to the regions which have the worst safety ratings, while also acknowledging the population size. Data provided additional regions. Like I said, there were cities, districts, but I was really only interested in where the foreigners were living. And as I mentioned earlier, 85% of every foreign resident lives in one of these 23 special wards. So I focused on those areas. It's based on regional surveys in the TMA region conducted by local authorities. And like I mentioned earlier, it's a heavily prone region to natural disasters, not just earthquakes, which I'm focusing on here, but tsunamis, monsoons, and if the Mount Fuji was to erupt, it's just in a pretty dangerous situation. There's quite a few people living there. So since 75, the TMA government has conducted surveys roughly every 5 years to update data based on new knowledge of the geography environment and to update the data on urban environment. Again, this is based on regional surveys done by the local authorities. So this is my data and workflow. It's an analysis of a very large data set. It ranks TMA awards overall level of risk from earthquakes on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being low risk, 5 being high risk. There were several more categories that included ranking of the blocks within the urbanized area of Tokyo, ranks them more of a level of danger with small numerical values indicating a higher degree of earthquake risk. That would be the 1 to 5. So there was also overall risk of building collapse, fire, but I just focused on the overall risk to the population. So I used the JGD 2000 Japan Zone 9, thanks to the SPF file I found online. Actually, as soon as I added that to the map, that is the CRS coordinates that it inputted. And as a matter of fact, that coordinate system is specifically designed for an accurate representation of Japan. The reason is that the JGD 2000 is the official coordinate system used by Nihonjin government, the Japanese government. Okay, so here is the data I depicted. I'll just discuss the bullet points really quick. It displays a combination of population density and risk of natural disasters. So what I did was I found a shapefile of all of Tokyo. That is what the tan color is behind. I focused in on the eastern region. I found another shapefile of just the TMA. You can see that is in light green. And then on top of that, I layered proportional symbols of the total populations of the 23 wards. So the biggest ward in Japan is the Setagaya ward at 948,000 with a foreign population of 21,000. That is somewhere in the northeast region. I use using my symbol attribute, I added the colors to the symbols based on the average number of blocks in the ward that are between 3 to 5. So the darker the color, the more higher risk blocks are associated with that region. I believe the most dangerous regions are the Arakawa region. It has a size of 213,000. That ranks number 20 with a foreign population, I believe, at 19,000. So it's kind of a small amount. The foreign population is usually between 0.5 to 1% of the total ward. Okay, and the black bars are charts from the symbology. Those are just indicating the amount of foreign residents in those wards. Some other information is very interesting. So in the TMA, there are 465,000 foreign residents amongst the 9.5 million total population. This represents less than 1%. But what's interesting is that there are a total of 546,000 foreigners living in Tokyo, right? So not in this eastern region. This means 85% of foreign residents living in Tokyo are residing in the most dangerous area of Tokyo in terms of a threat from an earthquake. The total population, like I said earlier, is 13.96 million. So this leaves an unaccounted 446,000 residents. If you subtract the difference of foreign residents that don't live in these special wards, you get 300,000. This means leaving 100,000 foreign residents. This means that there is a mere 0.07% of foreigners that don't reside in these high danger areas, combined with, when you compare that to the 300,000 native residents that do live in the area, that represents 4.3% of natives living elsewhere. So that's something to take in mind. For some reason, a lot of the natives, not a lot, but significantly more of the natives live outside of the TMA. These are probably less populated areas. Foreigners that are coming there are probably, living in these densely populated areas just because language barriers, cultural barriers, and maybe that's where their work areas are located. Some limitations to this, I couldn't exactly figure out. Let's say how much time the foreign residents are spending in these areas, what type of transportation they're taking, if they're working from home. So what you get here is pretty much just a summary of how many foreign residents are living in these areas. And again, 85% of them decide to live in the most dangerous region of Tokyo. So as someone who wants to live abroad at some point, this is news to me. So now I know, most likely when I move to an area, I'm going to be living in a densely populated area. And if it's Tokyo, somewhere that's highly susceptible to earthquakes and other natural disasters. You can see I put my legend here, spatial reference, and there is a north bar, and then underneath there's a scale bar. Here are my references, and that concludes my presentation.